flow. Recording in progress. Wonderful. Now we can start. So we are gathered here tonight again, another day that we can do a little bit of, well, we can call it virtue, but the virtue only depends on our intention. So that's why it's so important for us to really start working and making sure our intention is as pure as possible. And as we've been saying, what it makes an intention pure is everything that is the opposite of our current intention. So our current intention, as we have said there's two main characteristics. One, there is only one person that is the center of the universe. Me, myself, and I. So this is the first aspect of our current motivation and intention, which is the basis for everything that we do with our body, speech, and mind. You guys need to be ready for today because I'm a little bit on fire. So we're gonna do boom a lot of debate today, okay? So that is the first one. Me, myself, and I. So you guys need to check, really start realizing that. So most important of realizing, that is realizing how this turns up in our lives, how we realize that we are actually selfish. Because if I'm just saying that, if I'm just saying, oh yes, I just think about myself, but maybe not so much, maybe it's just Kalden saying that I'm very altruistic, I think about others, about my family, my friends, so just think about it, how subtle can it be, that part. So that is very important to recognize that, and then to recognize the other aspect of it, as we said that there is our motivation is based on just ourselves, but getting what for ourselves, right? Getting instant, very short-term pleasures. That's what we are kind of like doing. And both of these things comes from an intrinsic um, confusion. Confusion about how things are, how things exist. To be more precise, it comes because of not understanding the nature of things. That's why. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that. Okay? So that's why it's so important that we give direction to our motivation, that we give the intention, so we make sure that we understand what is going on. Anyone remembers what we were talking last week? Anyone has any idea? Deb, Bob, Alex, Jack.
It, you were
Yes.
talking you were talking about the importance of not wasting our lives and
Yeah.
being aware of death, which can occur at any moment.
Yes.
And then you also went into the continuity of consciousness and that having a good rebirth,
And the
human
different
rebirth.
realms. We talked about the different realms as well.
Yes, the different realms.
Yes.
And that the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths
Yes.
to get to show that this we could stop the whole circle of rebirth, even
Yes.
though it's good to have a good rebirth, obviously, but also liberation from the whole cycle is very important.
Wow.
Okay.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Right? So that's what we're going to continue today. That is exactly, what we need to start understanding. Because it's the more we understand about the Buddhist logic, the more we understand why the teachings were done in a certain way, right? Because everything is logical, everything is in a way rational. There's a rationale about behind it. I don't know how to say that, but there's a meaning and intention behind the way that the teachings are done, and not only that, but especially the intention is to benefit us so we can achieve enlightenment. So everything is moving us towards that. Because if those teachings are coming from the Buddha, the Buddha's intention, different than our current intention, it's only for us to achieve enlightenment, for us to be free from suffering. So the Buddha doesn't think about his own well-being, so he doesn't have me, myself, and I. And he knows how to get lasting, peaceful happiness. He doesn't care. He is not worried about the small, instant pleasures of life. So this is his motivation. And as I like to say, that the reason why we need to direct our motivation for that direction is because we need to match the intention of the Buddha with ours. You know, it's Tinder, Buddhist Tinder. You know, we need that. We need matching. We need them to kind of like, you know, let's say if they are praying, if they are doing everything with their body, speech, and mind in order for us to achieve enlightenment, okay, so then we don't need to do anything. But that cannot be possible, right? The Buddha said a beautiful quote, and you know that he said, I cannot wash your sins and I cannot give you enlightenment, or I cannot give you your realizations. You know, it's a much better translation than that what I've given. But that is the main idea, you know, that the Buddha cannot wash away our sins in the way of that he cannot purify our mind, and he cannot, you know, develop our minds towards enlightenment. So that means we need to do it. We are the ones. So he show us the path, and for us to actually, the first step is us wanting to walk that path. So that's why the motivation is what is going to make us go and enter that path. Okay, so with that being said, let's create a strong motivation. So we already are becoming aware of our present situation of suffering, our present situation of never finding, you know, satisfaction in whatever we do, whatever we say, whatever we eat, whoever we meet. We are constantly wanting more and more and more, never satisfied. Because we are just allowing our minds to run free. And the way it runs free, as we said, is towards feeding only what I want, me, myself, and I, and instant pleasures, external pleasures. So that doesn't actually give what we actually want. So in that case, we decided to come here together to study, to contemplate, to discuss, and to meditate on the Buddhist proposal, the Buddhist idea, and hear and learn more about the path towards enlightenment. And if the path towards enlightenment, the main thing is to change those two things, those two aspects of our current motivation, our current intention. So for that, we need to start realizing that the suffering that we experience, others also experience. And because of that, everything that we have right now is actually due to the kindness of sentient beings. The body we have because of our parents, the food we have, the shelter we have, everything that we enjoy, all of these instant pleasures, they are due to the kindness of others. But they are also suffering, and they are also drinking salty water like us, trying to find lasting happiness. So we want to develop ourselves and open our hearts, realize the nature of our minds so we can actually benefit them. And we do that by transforming our wisdom, developing our inner wisdom. Stop chasing outside experiences, objects, people to find happiness, but we start to develop a mind, an inner mind that can achieve that. And the more we do it, the more we can share with others and help others to achieve the same. So in this way, we need to count with others that have walked this path, and especially those that have perfected this path. The Buddha, all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas, our teachers. So we can visualize them in front of us as a source of inspiration, made of golden light, looking at us with pure view, not to judge, but just to really encourage us, teach us, guide us. And they guide us by teaching the Dharma, by giving advice, and by living the example of an enlightenment mind, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, like Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And we have all of these beings surrounding us, that we know that they are also suffering. Our friends, the people we have difficulties, our enemies in front of us, and all the people and all the beings that we have no idea. And we don't know them, which is mainly almost everybody. But as we saw, there's not only human beings in this world, there are also hungry ghosts, and there's all the realms, the hell realms, the hungry ghosts, the ghost realms, the animal realms, and the god realms. So all of them are also here. We can visualize them around us. And the more vast is our inclusion of other beings, the more powerful it is our compassion, and the more powerful is going to change our selfish, self-centered attitude. So that's why we need to be a vast mind. And we're going to do these aspirational prayers as a way to encourage us, to remind us of what we want to achieve. Let me share here. Prayers. There we go. So we can do the prayers and we can start. I think it's the D. Where is it? Oh, yeah, here. The four immeasurables as a way to help us develop this mind of enlightenment. This wish to help others. So we can start by thinking about these beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And now to make sure, that we can actually develop this path, we need to take refuge in those that can really help us. Sorry. We can actually take refuge in those beings and those jewels, those aspects, those qualities that can really bring us to lasting happiness, and stop looking for and taking refuge in those things that only bring us a little bit of instant pleasures. Okay? So we can visualize the Buddha looking at us, and we can visualize white light rays coming and purifying ourselves. And while we do these prayers, we can also visualize golden light coming and giving us what we need in order to develop this path. So we're gonna do twice in English and once in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodan soki chonam la janju bardu dani kyapsu chi dagi chunye ki pe sonam ki drula penche sangye drupar sho. Oh yeah! Now we are ready. So, we started to understand, as I was saying, the end of last. Yes, Bob.
Would
Is that
would you mind talking a little bit about the inner mind?
the inner mind?
Yeah, if you use that expression.
Yes. The idea of the inner mind is more about right now the way we experience happiness or the way we think happiness exists is outside, right? We think that there is a need of an external object for us to feel pleasures and, any type of happiness, because we call it happiness. No, oh, I'm so happy I just had this amazing meal, or oh, I'm so happy I just went to the beach, or I'm so happy I just watched the game, isn't it? So we really believe that happiness it's outside. And the Buddhist path, as I love, and I always say about that, the concept of inner being, which is the methodology in a way of the Buddhist path, which is to go inside. So we go into the inner, we look for the solutions, or we look for the answers within ourselves, in our minds. So that's the idea of the inner mind. Is kind of like understanding that actually the mind has the potential for everything. Everything is there. We don't need to find anything external. You know? We actually, because we are human beings, we can enjoy even more everything external if we come or we experience all of these experiences, sorry, if we use, we come from that minds, that understanding, that experience. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Very good. No problem.
I get confused sometimes when you talk about the mind.
Very
And the
good.
reason that I do is the belief that the reason that people are focused on being selfish and on what they want and immediate happiness is due to the mind.
Yes.
It's due to the conditioning of the mind.
Yes.
So you say the mind is capable of this, and it
Yes.
confuses me.
Yes. Very good question. Very good question. Because this is exactly how it feels. It's just like, wait a minute. So then, but the mind right now is, selfish by autopilot, right? Our autopilot is selfish and is just looking for external pleasures, right? Confusing this inner type of happiness that we can achieve with outside external pleasures, right? That is exactly the point. Is a confusion. We are wrongly confused. And because it's a wrongly confusion, it can be eliminated, and therefore everything that is already there, that kind of like perfection of that clarity, that vastness, that full of love and compassion, and that wisdom that we already have within, that now is covered by this confusion, can just be. can just manifest.
So what you're saying is that the mind can be transformed.
The mind can be transformed in the way that the way we experience the mind now it can be transformed. But the nature of our mind doesn't need transformation. It's already there and it's perfect as it is. Do you
But it
understand?
has, but doesn't the transformation include getting back there?
Yes, so but it's not about creating a new thing, or it's not about producing something. It's more about recognizing what has always been there.
Got
Yeah?
it. Got it. Got it.
Because that is very fundamental. Because, and then not only that, it's also very important that we start to understand that, wait a minute, you know, that mind that is a bit confused, you know, it is just habitual and causal relationship. Means there is a cause for it to exist, right? Which is this wrong view. And if the wrong view and this condition, it's taken, it's eliminated, that's it. That is very important. It's exactly, we have the power of letting go of this mind. We have the power of eliminating this mind. It's complicated sometimes when we talk about continuity of the mind, because that nature goes from life after life, right? But that is very interesting, because I was reading, I can't remember when I was reading that. I think it was something about his holiness, or it was, no, it was on the Lamrim Chemo, and which is Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary on the Lamrim. And Lamrim Chemo, there's a part that we are talking about what goes, you know, life after life. And there's, of course, discussion, you know, because Buddhists, they like to, you know, debate. And they were talking about the idea of the general I and the specific I. That is very interesting if you think about it. What it means is that the way our minds goes life after life after life, there is always going to be a general idea of me, of I. That means that now I'm a man, so I have a general idea of me being a man. But previous life, I maybe was a woman. Previous life, maybe I was a monkey. Previous life, maybe I was a horse or a dog. But in all of those lives, I had a specific sense of I. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Why is it important? It's important for us to try to understand that this is exactly a specific example of, because we get attached and we get so involved in the specific concept of I of this life, we think that this is going to continue in the next lives. So we get attached, we do things, we chase things, we kind of like act as if this specific I is going to continue. But let me say something to you. You had hundreds, thousands, unlimited times specific eyes, and you have no idea right here and right now what they were. But right now, this specific I seems so strong and so real, and we need to feed and take care of and nourish and give whatever it wants. So what Buddhism is saying is that this wrong view of this sense of specific I, we need to transform. But the general aspect of an I that goes from life after life, that is just how it is. So if I take out that specific idea of an I, this attachment to this specific idea of an I, if I eliminate this and I live from that understanding of that general aspect of I, you let me know how your life would be. Because the Buddhist path and the Buddhist approach is bringing us towards more and more what reality is. And not because I am saying what reality is, it's just because we are analyzing how a reality is. Yes, Mr. Bob?
I'm lost.
You lost? What I'm saying is,
I'm lost on the concept of the general from life to life.
so the concept of general life to life means that if we always, as we said last week, that the mind will always have a body, right? We're going to be reborn, we're going to die, and we're going to have another body in a different realm, or wherever it's going to be, we're going to have another body, right? So we always going to have this sense of I coming up. But it's a general sense of I. It doesn't, and it's just that idea that there is this general sense of I that will always pop up because we're going to have a body and a mind coming together. That is not the way we live. That we don't live with that understanding. We don't experience our lives from that understanding. We don't. Because if we did, then we would be so patient and so kind and so relaxed with so many things, especially when someone says, Bob, your house is very ugly. And then he's talking about my house, my, you know? That sensation, that feeling would not arise, because what makes that feeling and that sensation of anger, of like he's talking about me, is our attachment and confusion that the specific I is the true I. That is so important that we understand that. We are only keep on continue having these negative experiences, this anger coming up, this attachment coming up, because there is something to glue. There is something to kind of like there's a basis for it to arise, which is the ego or the I. So if we understand that I doesn't exist, that ego doesn't exist the way I am experiencing it in my mind, that is the difficult part of it. But if I understand that the way the ego and the I is appearing to me, am I experiencing it? It's not based in reality. If I just cut that confusion, I'm free from everything. Everything falls apart. Blah, blah, blah. Are you guys following me today? Alex, Jack, is there?
I'm following you. I just need some help along the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, because this is
Wait,
so.
I need some help along the way.
Okay, I'll help. I'm
Before
gonna
you
talk
leave
about the
this.
same thing in many different ways so we can understand.
Okay.
So if I understood it, then wouldn't I be liberated?
I would be definitely liberated. I would be free from that, right? That is the point. Is that understanding that what causes all our sufferings is the mistaken experience and the mistaken view of how things are and how things function and how experience it and how things appear to us. You know, Kundrila says in a very beautiful way, she says, it's the mistaken understanding of the nature of reality.
So,
Yes, Esther.
so I was wondering here, can you, so I guess I can apply that rule, not rule, but you know, like
Yes.
also in like in work environment, like when a colleague maybe does something to you that
Yes.
you feel that's unconsiderate as a colleague. So I'm thinking if I can apply that, then I would just don't care.
I think two things here. It's more than about just don't care, because the caring can be kind of like a pushing, a suppression, or is more about understanding two aspects of it. Okay? The person and you, right? And there's a third aspect actually, which is involved in this, is whatever, let's say that the person said something to you, okay? So it's three things that are here happening. Okay, three things. Three things. The person, the saying, and you. Right? There's these three things happening. So when we are talking about here not understanding the way the reality is and the way these experiences appearing, we are talking from our side. Okay? So that means that whatever we are experiencing because of this person said this or that, and whatever, however we are seeing this person is being experienced by us. So anything or everything that we have, it's coming from our mind. You understand that?
Yes.
Why? Because the words are just sounds and they have a meaning, but the way that that meaning is arriving to me and I am getting either upset or angry or whatever is coming from my mind and my interpretation of it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, everybody who would, or every time I would hear those words, okay, I would be attacked. But normally I can even sing that a song with those words and I'm actually enjoying it. You understand what I mean? The words in itself, they are not good or bad. That is already what I'm trying to say to Bob, that this is the reality of that the action of speaking words. The words, they are not inherently means from their side good or bad. They are depending on this little thing here, which is us. Okay? Second, the person. Normally, when I hear the words and I get that this is bad, that this person is to say that this is they are saying about me, I look for the cause of these words, which is the mouth of this person, right? And then I start to see that this person, I start to project bad qualities. And literally, I start to see this person as bad. Maybe I know this person for like 10 years or 3 years or even a few hours. And maybe I was having a very good time with them and I had a lot of good times with them and they are very nice people and I know them and all of that. But right here and right now, I am seeing this person as bad. The thing is, the moment that I'm experiencing that, I I forget about all the good things of this person. I forget about this person's like personality, good actions, helpful, all of that. We forget. We are only seeing it with that mind of that person is bad, bad, bad. So this projection and this view is not based in reality as well. Because that's not reality. She's not like that. She's acting in a certain way, okay? Which might be considered not so good, yes, conventionally, but I am not saying like that. I'm saying that this person forever has always been bad. So we exaggerated the negative aspects of this person. And not only this, we forget that this person is also suffering, is also full of negative emotions, is also coming from a wrong view. We don't see that. We don't think about that. Which all of these things that I'm saying, they are based in reality. They're based in how things simply are. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then comes the third aspect, which is me, the way I see myself. And then it comes with that idea that this specific I that we just talked about, is inherent. I am Esther, I'm a good woman, I am a nice daughter, I am a nice person, I am this. I start to create all of these ideas about myself, completely believing that there is something concrete, permanent, specific, that I can glue these kind of like qualities. And then I need to hold these together and keep that. Do you understand what I'm saying, Esther? Yes? So this wrong idea is completely wrong, because we are not like that. We are a continuum of mind, ever changing, moment by moment. That's what we are. That's what the sense of I is. The I is the previous moment brings, and then there's a new moment, and then there's going to be a new moment, and that's it. There's only a continuity. There's not this permanent fixed idea. That is completely the confused, the ignorance, as we call, the wrong view. And that is why it's so mind-blowing, and in a way so touching when we start to realize that.
I'm touched now.
Yes, it is. It's very touching because, if you think about it, all the suffering of our lives and every single suffering in this world comes from this misunderstanding. Comes from us believing that this is true, that what we are experiencing as being inherent, as being permanent, as being fixed, as being concrete, never existed and will never exist in this way. Why, Esther? Because if it was like that, then we could never change. Do you understand? We could never change. If it was permanent and inherent and completely happening from its own side, as we say, autosufficient, self-sufficient. If it was like this, then it could never change. Then it doesn't matter if we think in a different way, it would continue being like that. It doesn't matter if someone says something to you, it would completely be like that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So if you really are able to understand all this, not only understand rationally, but live that, feel that,
Yes.
it's not going to affect you. Like
more than is not going to affect me, what is going to happen, and that is the beauty, and that's why when I talk sometimes about that, it really touches my heart, and really I get emotional, because then there's only compassion that comes, Esther. Because you understand your own suffering and the suffering of others. How can you be angry at someone that it is just like you, completely suffering because of this misunderstanding? How can you be angry at someone like that? Do you understand? It's like being angry when you understand that someone doesn't speak English, or someone that doesn't speak, or someone that has a mental problem. You just say, like, oh no, but they should be like this. It's not like that. That's not how they are right now. But not only this, you just really, that's why we say that the path to enlightenment are these two wings, compassion and wisdom. Because the more we develop that inner wisdom, as you perfectly said, not only intellectually, but we start to live it, more our heart starts to go. And the more we start to actually think about others, the less, we diminish our sense of this I so concrete. So it helps with our wisdom. Do you understand? So this is kind of like a balance that kind of like makes it just expands more and more and more. So what does it mean? It means that it doesn't have, then the I, this ego doesn't exist. No, it exists, but it exists conventionally. What conventionally means? By cause and effect. So you are a woman, you have a body because your parents gave you a body. You are alive because you ate all of the food, you took sun, you have that, you drink water, you had medicine and all of that. You are right now the result of billions, zillions causes and conditions coming together. That is beautiful. That opens the heart as well, if you think about it. And it stops with this idea of me, 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 me. Because if I am alive right now, it's due to the kindness of all of these people, all of these beings. And not only if we talk about continuity in this life, but all my previous lives. Because I had a mother every previous life. I had food every previous life. Think about it. How profound is it? It's very profound. It's very, very special. So that is what we start to understand when we are talking about it, which is perfect in the way that I wanted to maybe talk, instead of just going towards the Four Noble Truths, but talking about what we call the two truths, which when we talk about reality, we are talking about truth, or we are talking about reality, we can call, and we have two realities. We have a conventional reality, and we have an ultimate reality, okay? An ultimate reality means the essential nature of everything. Okay? What does it mean, the essential nature of everything? Means that if we analyze things, we always gonna end up in the same essential nature. What does it mean? It means that there's nature that every single object, every single person, every single phenomena, we use this word, which can be very fancy, phenomena, but it's like everything that exists is empty, completely empty of a self-existing, inherent existing way. Because if it was self-existing, it could never exist with causes and conditions like everything actually exists. As we just proved that we are a result of causes and conditions. We just proved that. If we were self-existing, then we will not be able to change. We would self-exist in a certain way always. That what self-existing means. Self-existing, inherently existing, existing from its own side means I am independent, I don't need anything. I just pop up from nothing and I just stay as I am and never changes. Nothing is like this. Nothing in the universe. Think about everything. All the food, trees, water, everything. Everything comes from causes and conditions coming together. So when we talk about relative truth and ultimate truth, or conventional reality, same word for relative truth, conventional reality, same. And when we talk about ultimate truth or absolute reality, same. When we talk about that, we are talking about two sides of the same coin. Because things are empty of the self-sufficient inherent existence, they are like this because they are conventionally, they are dependently arising. What does it mean dependently arising? They depend on causes and conditions to manifest, to exist. So if we want to eliminate, so now we are going to see, okay, Kalden, so why, as Bob said perfectly today, Bob, very good, because you jump into our class with your question. It was perfect. You know, why the problem? What is the problem we have now? What is the problem we have now? We don't recognize these two realities. I don't recognize the reality of the absolute reality, and I don't recognize the conventional reality. I don't think that things exist from cause and effect, from cause and conditions. Something bad happens to me and I look into the sky and say, why? you know? Or something happens to us and we are just like, but I didn't do anything to create that, isn't it? This is a very how do you say, superficial way. But even deeper, when we start to look into our body and our mind, we don't see it, that they are coming from causes and conditions as well. We don't see that our body came from our mom and dad, that was fed, that it had sun, that, it takes so much conditions and causes to be alive as a body. We're talking only about the body. And I don't see that my mind is totally dependent from my previous actions. I don't see like that. I do think like that when I'm thinking about, for example, education. I want to have a PhD. Okay, to have a PhD, I need to have a master's and I need to have a bachelor's and I need to have a certificate. So I think like that. But in the day-to-day lives, I don't think that whatever I'm doing now will influence, whatever I'm doing now will influence my future. And whatever it is that I am experiencing now, it is being influenced by my previous actions. Of mind. I'm not only talking about the body, I'm talking about the mind. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Are you following? So the more I approach myself to reality, the more I approach myself to these two realities. So that's what we talk about, familiarization with these two truths, these two reality, which is one, but two sides of the same coin. Remember that. One cannot exist without the other. So that is the basis of what the Buddha actually understood. That's it. Nothing else. He didn't invent reality. He didn't invent absolute reality. He didn't invent conventional reality. He simply observed and came to that conclusion. And when he came to that conclusion, he not only came with this, but he experienced that. And then he said, what I can show you guys is how to achieve that same realization of these two truths. Okay? Bob.
Why can one not exist without the other, please?
Because if you think about it, they kind of they are the same thing but said in different ways. What does it mean? If I talk about ultimate reality and I say that things are empty of an inherent existence, of an self-existence, of an existing from its own side, then the question comes, okay, if they are empty of that, how do they exist then? By depending arising, by depending on causes and conditions. So they are the same thing. So if I say to you, things exist in dependence of causes and conditions, and and more than that, because these causes and conditions is just the first layer of how things exist. Because if we're going to go even further, we're going to say that things exist because of parts, right? Like a car. Very easy to say that exactly exists because of causes and conditions, many materials coming together, blah, 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 blah. And then, okay, then I have a car. So if I dismantle, is that a word? Yeah, dismantle the car, which of these pieces is the car? None. None of them is the car. It's very funny because in English we can use that in a very good way. The car, you know, when I say, because in other languages it's harder, but it's true. It's like you can say, which of these pieces is the car? None of them is the car. The motor, the engine, no, it's not a car. Just an engine. Can I call it a car? No. The tires, the the wheel, the gear, no. So also these are depends on parts, and all of these. So I have all of these causes and conditions coming together, all these materials, all of these machines, all of these things, and then all of these parts coming together, and then I have a mind coming and looking at this process and calling it, labeling it, labeling these parts and these causes and conditions coming together, a car. And then when I labeled, the car exists. Bing. So every time I see something that has 4 wheels, an engine, a wheel, a gear, I call it a car. However, my question to you is, do I see it as simply being an imputed label by my mind into parts and into causes and conditions coming together, or I truly believe that there is a car? There is a car there, an inherent car, a car that never changes, a car that was not made by causes and conditions, a car that will completely disappear if I just leave it. I don't see it like that. So it's exactly the same with us. We look at ourselves and we don't see that we are made of causes and conditions coming together, both our body and our minds. And then we see that body and mind, what we call the aggregates. We need to talk about the aggregates at some point. We call these parts, let's say like this, the body and the mind together, we called I, me. Who is labeling it? The mind. So it's a simple label from the mind into these two things called the body and the mind, which are parts. So if we're going to look in the mind has parts and it's made of causes and conditions. And not only this, if we break the mind, let's say that we break the mind into past, future, and present. So if I break the present, I also gonna have past, future, and present again and again. I always gonna have that until infinite. I can never find the present, because the moment I call the present, it's gone, gone, gone. There's a past and there's a private, always. So that will mean, I know today is a little bit too much. I hope that you are there. Hannah, I don't know, if you can hear us, but I hope it's okay. And Tal, I know, I hope it's not too much. But what is important is to understand the basics. This is the basis of the Buddhist philosophy. Because if we don't understand the two truths, then the way we're going to understand the Four Noble Truths is going to be very different. But if we understand the two truths, we're going to understand why there is suffering, how it can be, we can find the causes, how we can eliminate it, and that there is a path. Because we understand the basics of it. We understand that the conventional truth and the absolute truth, they are two sides of the same coin, and that right now we are not seeing any of these sides. Right now, we are completely seeing different, parallel universe, which is things are permanent, things are self-sufficient, things are independent, things are permanent. That's how we live life. It's just observe our lives. And we can see how we think that we're not gonna live, that we're gonna live forever, that we are like that we have these ideas. It's just like that. Everything. Alex, you had a question?
Yes, small
Yes.
question.
Simple question.
I just want to understand more. When you enlightened being experience emptiness, he see the causes and conditions, or he or she stops seeing the causes and conditions, or for example, they just see the parts.
Yes. The way that they describe in the text is, there's a very beautiful text called The Ornament of Clear Realization, which is kind of like, and also the Tathagata Garba, beautiful text. All of these in the basic program, and of course, thousands and hundreds of texts about it. But when they start to describe the enlightened experience, right? Let's say that the main aspect of the enlightened mind is what we call omniscience. And omniscience means it's like the AI, means that all the information that has been experienced by that continuity of mind and all the information that all the minds have experienced, it can be accessed. Boom. So that means that the mind of the Buddha can observe and can see all the causes and conditions of every action of every sentient being at the same time. So there's no hidden phenomena of for a Buddha. Let's say, what does it mean? Does it mean that I'm here in this room, right? When I leave the room, my mind is not perceiving what is in here, but the Buddha is perceiving what is here. Do you understand? Because the mind of the Buddha can perceive all the time, every moment of past, present, and future of every sentient being. So that is the potential that we all have. Okay, that's one aspect. Second aspect is that, why is that possible? Because every aspect and every phenomenon, again using that big word, is empty of inherent existence. What does it mean? It means that it never existed in a permanent, self-sufficient, independent way, ever. So there was always that cause and effect. Even if we were not aware, even if we didn't see it like that, even if we didn't experience like that. So as quantum physics is starting to get into that realization that information, let's call information cause and effect, is never lost. So it's like that. So there's always information being experienced, but we lose it. So the mind of the Buddha, because it doesn't have that wrong view of the reality of how things work, it can access that reality. Does it make sense? Does it help? That is very important that we also, so when we start to talk about the two truths, we start to actually going towards understanding these two aspects of it. It's perfect. Honestly, the more you start to understand the Buddhist path, you start to understand how perfect it is in the way of logic. Why? Because remember I talk about the two wings, wisdom and compassion? So the two truths is exactly the same thing. How do you develop the understanding of the ultimate truth? Wisdom. How do you understand the understanding of the relative truth, cause and effect? Compassion, if you think about it. Interdependency. right? If I understand interdependence in my mind, I start to understand cause and effect. You see how subtle and how incredible it is, because then you start to understand these two aspects, of the mind, that the relative truth and the ultimate truth, they are just, two aspects of the same coin. And then we can develop, hello Margaret, sweetheart, so we can develop the deep, the approaches, let's say like that, or the path towards what we call accumulation of wisdom, and the path of accumulation of merits, or or virtue mind, or compassion, or bodhicitta. Because the more I go towards understanding cause and effect, the more I understand that developing a mind that thinks about others will bring me happiness, because of cause and effect. Because if everything that I have depends on others, then the more I am kind, happier, and nicer to others, the more they're gonna want to give me something. Do you understand? But not with that intention to, oh, then I can get something from that. No, by understanding reality, cause and effect. So that is how profound it is, the Buddhist path. So that's why it's so important. It's a shame that we, soon we're going to finish, but that we can develop more. Next week, I'll bring again, and I'm going to try to establish that understanding of the two truths more into us, because the more we develop that understanding, that's why His Holiness is very, very special. There's that book, Approaching the Buddhist Path, with His Holiness and Thubten Children. Very special book. Most of the things that I'm saying coming a little bit from that. So the Buddhist path comes from that understanding that the two truths are the basics, or the basis, not the basics, the basis of the Buddhist understanding. That's it's almost kind of like saying, if we want to make what did the Buddha did? The Buddha realized the true truth. He didn't invent it, he didn't create it, he didn't do any, he realized it. So he was able to realize the true truth. That was it, if we need to say. And from that, there's a beautiful quote. I think I have it here because recently I was reading that it was, why the Buddha, when the Buddha was kind of like meditating and he got enlightened, it is said that that he have said, is reported, or is said that he said something that is very beautiful. I'm gonna read for you guys, otherwise I'm gonna make a mistake. But profound and peaceful, free from complexity, uncompounded luminosity, I have found a nectar like Dharma. Yet, if I were to teach it, no one would understand. So I shall remain silent here in the forest. That's what the Buddha said when he got enlightened. I find it so profound. And because he understood, he said, I found it in the way that it was always there, but we never realized it. But that was his idea of like, how can I benefit? People will not understand. And then these 5 monks with whom he had been, studying together under a different teacher, came to him and requested teachings. So the moment that they requested teachings, then he could teach. He found a way to teach. That is so beautiful. Again, even the Buddha is not, how do you say, free or above the law of cause and effect. That is very interesting. Why? Because if it was, then the Buddha would be able to come and wash our sins, or wash our minds and purify our minds. So he can't. So that's why it's important that we do prayers. That's why we do Tinder, Buddhist Tinder, Because when we are requesting the Buddhas to actually guide us, teach us, and all of that, then they will continue finding miracle, incredible ways for us to develop on our path. But it needs to come also from us. Our intention, we need to bring our intention closer to their wish, which is to help sentient beings. So that is how it's so profound. That is how it's kind of like understanding the two truths, understanding, you know, the real meaning, you know, what it means. So we're going to talk about it, about the two truths more, and then we're going to talk about the two truths in relation to how the Buddha taught these two truths, you know? Because the Four Noble Truths is just the first teachings of the Buddha. It was the first teachings. But let's say we say that he turned the wheel of the Dharma. So we say that the Four Noble Truths is the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, which, by the way, we're going to have special events on 27 and 28, which is we celebrate the first turning of the wheel. And I'm going to be there, and I'm going to make all of you wake up at 5 in the morning so we can do prayers together. We're going to have so much fun. So when we talk about the first turning of the wheel, we are talking about the moment that the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths. But then we say that he turned the wheel 2 other times, the second and the third. What does it mean? That he went subtle and subtler into understanding and explaining these two truths. Okay? So that's what we're going to do, so we can start understanding more and more the path towards enlightenment. So we can understand, you know, how we can achieve that freedom from this constant rebirth in confusion, from this constant, you know, even in our daily lives, even if our friends said this, our colleagues said that we can live without this. That's what we want. Okay? So thank you so much. I can see that today you guys are a little bit like you've been knocked out, you know, kind of like dharma exhaustion.
It was great. It was great. Fabulous.
Good. It's because it's so powerful and it's really going against the mind that we have now. That's why there's so much resistance, you know. That is why sometimes it's almost, you know, when you, I don't know, any of you, if you speak a different language or you try to learn a different language, you know, maybe Esther and then Alex, you know, maybe for us, because we speak different languages. At some point when you are learning, and for me it's with Tibetan, when I'm trying to learn Tibetan more and more, is like at some point the mind becomes tired, because it's literally having to go against its ways it is used to. So it becomes tiring. So it's normal that after here, you all are a little bit like spaced out, or a bit kind of like, oh God, that was like, you know, because we are literally going against the ingrained status quo of our ignorant and confused minds. So that is why we call the Dharma is an antidote. It's an antidote for that. And it's like taking an antibiotics. When you take antibiotics, it's hard as well to the body, isn't it? So the body also kind of like loses a bit its resistance. So it's just like that. But remember, after taking the antibiotics, the result is much better. So it's the same here. Okay? So you guys don't forget. So we just take these 5 seconds to just dedicate. And dedication means that, wow, okay, I made an idea, an intention to actually develop myself, to decrease my self-cherishing, to decrease myself, you know, self-cherishing, egocentric view. And I, made a commitment, and I made an intention to, decrease my outside, looking outside for happiness, but looking within myself. And now I heard about all of these things, especially the two truths, the, you know, the two realities, the way, the ultimate essence of everything, and the way, the ultimate reality of how things exist. So I want to kind of like dedicate that I can use. That's what we need to think. Use that whatever we heard here, whatever we thought, whatever we contemplated, in order to achieve that goal, so we can benefit others. That is the main dedication. And then the most important dedication as well is to remember, the same way we did aspirational prayers, you know, to ask the Buddha's refuge. We also think, okay, all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, my teachers, never, never, ever stop guiding me and meeting with me and, you know, helping me in my future lives. Because if I do that, that intention, and with that intention, we have the match, and then the path will come back again and again, and we can continue evolving, developing, and, you know, being subtle and subtle in these understandings. So we dedicate in this way. And especially we dedicate for the long and healthy life of our precious teachers, and especially the Dalai Lama, to continue being an example of these teachings, not only through his understanding, but especially through these realizations, the way of being, which embodies, you know, these teachings. And not only that as well, but especially for all our teachers to have a long and healthy life and continue guiding us and all sentient beings. And especially for a place like Thubten Kalden, you know, which has been under the guidance of Lama Zopa Rinpoche in this life, continue to receive teachings from Rinpoche, so for Rinpoche to come back and guidance from Rinpoche. And for Thubten Kalden to always have all the necessary resources to continue existing. So not only us, but more and more people can connect with these precious and perfect teachings. Okay, so thank you very, very much. I hope it was in any way good. I see you all tomorrow for meditation, otherwise our lojong on Thursday.
Thank you, Venerable
Thank you. This
Kalden.
was terrific. This was
Thank
Thank you so
fascinating.
much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Venerable.
Thank you,
you,
Jitaya.
Venerable.
Yeah, thank you.